Welcome to the show, John Wilson in the studio, talking all things Jackson, bringing you the news that you need to know. The Heads on Jackson podcast, and we're coming at you live in your city, Jackson. This is your time. Get your news from your neighbor, the people who care, unbiased and uncensored with pride, broadcasting to you live on the air. Trusted source to tell you what's happening from the city to the county line. All the news that matters. Make your own opinion about the news that affect your life. It's Home Jackson podcast, and we're coming at you live in your city, Jackson. This is your time. Get your news from your neighbor, the people who care, unbiased and uncensored with pride. Coming at you broadcasting live on the
Yeah. Hi, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Hits Home Jackson podcast. There's a button I was looking for. All right, John. There you are.
Welcome again.
Yeah.
Welcome again to another episode of Hits Home Jackson with John Wilson, where it is always my objective to keep the responsible, law-abiding, hardworking, and retired citizens of all of Jackson County better informed on the decisions that are being made by our local elected officials with the City Council, Jackson City Council, or Jackson County Commission. Again, which affects pretty much every facet of our daily lives. Hits Home Jackson, your trusted source from the city to the county line. It is my distinct honor and privilege today to welcome to Hits Home Jackson a very special guest, Sergeant, First Class Sergeant John Shannon. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Good
sir.
to be here. Honored to be here.
Yes, we're going to do a special edition today. We're not going to speak so much on city and county issues, but we're going to speak on the 24-year anniversary of
That's right.
9/11.
That's right.
And John has a very, very heartwarming, intriguing life story of 9/11 and post 9/11. John,
Yeah.
again, welcome.
Thank you. Thank
Yes, sir.
you. Today they say, last normal day in America. Here we are 24 years later. It's crazy. I remember where I was at, like a lot of people. I had the privilege to speak with a school here yesterday about them experiences, and I'm happy to be here with you and speak
Yes.
on that. And pretty much, 24 years ago on September 11th, I was working as a service manager for a security company here, Comtronics, and thought I had everything figured out, like everybody. I was 25, 2 kids, had a comfortable life, and just a normal day that day until myself and our technician, we went out to a service call that morning, and customer got broken into, and there was a issue with a security company not being involved with the response, and so it wasn't fun being there. And then we were there, and his wife had showed us on TV what had happened, thinking it was a Cessna plane or something on that first tower, and then going back to work trying to figure this out. And then the second plane hit, and like everybody, from 903 to the second plane hitting, we didn't know what was happening. Now we know it was the biggest sucker punch in American history. followed by the Pentagon in Shanksville, Pennsylvania with United 93. But it didn't hit me till I got home that night. You know, my daughter, my oldest at the time, was roughly 5. And it was a different look in her eyes than it was being afraid of something under her bed, you know, or maybe a door opening or something that in the middle of the night. But she had a different look, man. It was a look of fear, and it was just different, you know. So that really hit me as a father, the husband. And man, I remember, you know, like a few days later, you couldn't find an American flag around here. You know, you could walk Kmart everywhere. You know, you couldn't find one. Everyone was taping them up on their windows. And it just was, you know, it was different. And, you know, I tried to do my part. I was on the road a few days later praying like a lot of people, and, you know, like honking with candles, you know, at the time. And it didn't really hit me, you know, until I got a phone call from my brother. And that's really where life really changed for me, really. My brother, Green Beret, also.
He was at the time a Green Beret?
Absolutely, yes, he was
on
a 9/11. But it wasn't till after that I got a phone call from him, you know, down at Fort Campbell with 5th Group. And I think I need to explain a little bit about my brother and I's youth growing up in order for you to kind of understand all of this. You know, my brother's older than me a couple years. You know, he's 2 years older than me, Rick. She walked out on us when we were real little. You know, he was 5 and I was 3. And my dad had some problems, and, you know, life wasn't real good. But luckily, we had a grandma and a grandpa that came from the greatest generation. You know, my grandfather owned with his brothers Trico in Michigan Center. And, you know, they were all World War II veterans, the brothers. They called it Trico for the Tri brothers, Don, John, and Al. One whom was a pilot in World War II. You know, so I had that in my family, but, you know, he was 8 when I passed. When he passed, I was 8, you know. And, you know, my grandma did the best she could, but, you know, things sort of stalled for me as a kid, like a lot of youth. And I had some problems and ended up through the foster home and, you know, group homes as a kid. You know, I spent a lot of my youth going to Grand Rapids Central, living in a group home, you know. But the thing about my brother was he was always there, you know. When I was gone, I always remember, like, you know, he brought me his football jersey from when he played high school football at Michigan Center when I was up there. You know, I didn't play football because I was up there. And I saved it. So when I came back, my grandma, you know, she took me in at my junior year, and I wore his number, you know, and we fast forward into life, you know, and when he graduated, he was gone. He was gone in the military. I don't even think he was here a week after he graduated, and he was gone. And I really didn't hear much about him and his career. And I didn't understand what a Green Beret was. John Wayne, Sylvester Stallone at the time, these Hollywood guys, you know. But I didn't understand the amount of training and what they did until that fateful day. And then, you know, he called, and I went down there, and I saw him with a lot of his teammates. And when I say teammates, the thing about a Green Beret is you've got, if you're lucky, you're going to go with 10 to 12 Americans on a deployment, but you're going to have foreign nationals, and you've got to communicate with them. And the only way to do that, of course, is foreign language. And that's something that I take great pride in. You know, I got that from my grandmother, you know, learning Polish when I was a little kid. But to learn Arabic and to grasp onto Pashto, coming from a kid that only reason I had a 2-point, like many kids around Jackson at that time, was sports.
Sure.
Eligibility, you know.
Yeah,
Had that
absolutely.
2 point.
You know, you wanted to play. And so that's what motivated me there. But when he called, and the thing about that is with a Green Beret, when they get spun up to deploy, they go into isolation. Okay.
So this is 9/11.
Yeah.
When he called you, or just okay?
He called me, and he had mentioned vaguely, you know, it was a long time ago, but he was leaving. He was deploying.
Okay,
He
so
was
they
going.
they go into isolation
Yes.
prior to the deployment.
Absolutely. Yeah. At Fort Campbell, amongst other bases, you have an isolation facility. Okay. And in that facility, basically what happens, you're handing your life over to your spouse or whomever that you know. Kids, everybody, they're gone. You're not communicating with them. You're going into isolation because, you know, you've got 10 to 12 U.S. forces, you know, all from E6, staff sergeant, sergeant first class, warrant officers, and captains. You know, you're not, no privates, no corporals, no sergeants, you know. And you go into isolation, and you're given your orders, and you're there. You're planning that mission. You know, that's the thing about a Green Beret most of the time. Now things change, but a lot of times you're winging it. You know, you're planning your missions. There's 10 to 12 of you.
So your brother was placed into
Yeah.
isolation,
Yeah.
and they knew of their deployment.
Yeah,
where they were going.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the reason for isolation, well, one reason, of course, is not to be able to communicate with
Right.
the outside world, including your family.
Yeah. And, you know, and
leading up to the deployment.
right. And, you know, I can't necessarily recall if it was right before or after, but I got the call and I got to see him. So I don't know if he went into isolation after or what, because I didn't really talk about it, you know.
Yeah.
And at the time, I mean, I didn't know anything about the military. You know, I knew my brother was in, my grandfather, and I knew I was very patriotic and very, you know, I wanted to do that. But when I tried as a teenager to get in with what I've kind of shared with you today, that was a letdown, man, to tell my grandma I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't get in the service because I just, you know, shoplifting, truancy, and just fighting and just, you know, crying out for help as a teenager, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I remember that day, and, you know, and that's where I share this with you because, you know, that was a tragic yet historic day, and followed up by that to go down and to see my brother with his guys, and, you know, and get the chance to say goodbye, but also leave and have this conviction that I can't explain it to you, you know. But it was a calling that I get goosebumps, but I knew that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
And I drove back to Jackson in a little Dodge Neon, and I went into the recruiting station, and they sort of laughed at me. I mean, think about it. 268 pounder. I don't want to join, you know.
At the time you went in, you were 260.
At the time I wanted to go in.
I believe I have a picture.
Yeah.
Is that one?
Yeah, that one on the left, you can see 2001, and you can
yes.
see. And I
Those
definitely
are your
set.
two daughters?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
I love to set sail with the captain.
Set sail with Captain Morgan.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
This is the picture on the left, of course, when you were sailing with Captain Morgan at the time.
And that's
You were a big boy there.
You're a big boy.
Yeah.
I had a hard time passing a fast food joint on West Ave, you know. So, I mean, and there's more now than there was back then.
Now you
you know?
got Chick-fil-A and Popeyes.
Yeah, the big one back then was Ponderosa.
Yeah.
I lived on the
All
east
you
side.
can eat.
That's
Salad
right.
bar.
Go
Okay,
big or go
so
home.
all right, interesting there.
Yeah.
So you walked into the recruiter and at 262 pounds.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know the exact words, but there were several patriotic people going in there, and you know, I got the privilege to hear a lot of stories when I was in basic training with a lot of these guys my age. However, going back, Yeah, it wasn't an easy thing. And when I kept going back, when I say I kept going back, like I went in initially to pull, because I was tiptoeing. I was like National Guard, maybe Reserve, or something. But it it I knew what I needed to do, and I knew what my purpose was. And
Your purpose being number
to
one,
follow,
to defend your country as a result of 9/11,
yeah,
and two, to be a Green Beret,
no,
to go into the Army.
I was gonna have my brother's back.
Yeah.
It I don't know how to. Just years of, I guess, I'm 50 now, so, but
Just a young man.
he is everything that I really wanted to be.
Okay.
He was the father figure.
Yeah.
And he's just a couple years older than me, but from football to him serving to that was my moral compass, so to speak, and I owed it to him and my girls at the time to do this. And I wanted to quit every day, man. I ran and ran. I lived on North Grinnell. The house isn't even there. It's a parking lot. And I got up in the morning because I still had to work, and I still had to figure out, how am I going to go in the military with 2 daughters, one in preschool and one in diapers. And still to this day, it has not been hard for them.
No.
Or any of us. But again, it goes back. I looked at him, and that's what it was. He, from when we were kids, wiffle ball, through playing football, to going to the military, and then ultimately knowing what a Green Beret was. But I didn't still understand that till my first tour going over. But going back to the recruiter, I had to go back, and what they put me in what's called a delayed entry program, which is a great program back then. And they get you signed and hooked up, and it's just a delayed entry. Like, you're going to go in like 8, 9, 10 months or whatever. So when they seen that I lost, I think it was about 25 pounds, they took me serious, because I was going in on Saturdays. There was a few of us there, and these recruiters, they were very motivated then, probably, as all soldiers were back then. But
they needed enlistees.
Yeah, they needed enlistees, man. So they would take us over to the Y a lot of times, and it was great. I got a little bit of a taste of, all right, these guys care enough for their country, and here they are working with me on the weekends. And so there was that accountability that I lacked as a kid for a long time. Started to, the Army and the military, they started to already shape who I was. But really that was driven from ultimately my brother, who still to this day, he's a civilian, but he's still working for the Department of Defense, which I'm very proud. He's down in North Carolina. He's got his master's degree, doing great.
Sure. Yeah. So it started to shape you, John, even prior to being, you were enlisted in the delay program.
Yeah.
But it started to shape you prior to even basic training.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I knew, and here, this is kind of, I don't really, I knew that this was it, man. This was like, I went through, man, I went through like 17 jobs before Comtronics took me serious. And it was when I was at my lowest. And I started out just as a technician, but man, they really gave me an opportunity to, raise my family and so
Comtronics, a locally owned business, good family.
Oh, outstanding.
Tops.
Absolutely. Yeah. Their father, the founder, was a genius, absolute genius when it came to communications with radios or anything. But I wish I knew now, like I could have picked up more because I didn't know anything then, but I know a little bit now to be dangerous about that kind of stuff, you know. But anyways, so that all that as far as, man, you know, I wasn't living in a lap of luxury, so to speak, but I was comfortable enough where I knew at the end of the day, my kids, they had a full belly, they had clothes, and they were able to go do some fun stuff from time to time. But, you know, fast forward and we go back, and I continue to go to the recruiters, and we're knocking out weight. And then my enlistment came to actually do this from when I was in the delayed entry program, all this. And I went up to MEPS. MEPS is the military enlistment processing up in Lansing. And you know when I went up to MEPS? 23 years ago today, a year from 9/11 was when I was up at MEPS on this day. And
1 year.
Yeah. And
after 9/11, 2001.
Well, it was September 10th. I went up there to start it. And then you enlist the next day. So I was staying in the hotel. If you see it, it's depressing. When you're on 96, you seen it, man?
Yeah. I considered the military when I was young. And so I went through a tour, took a tour of the areas. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's anyway. So they put me up there, and the next morning had breakfast, and it was go time. And, you know, it didn't hit me that it was September 11th, it was the 1 year anniversary then, because everything was happening so early and they woke us up. But when I got to raise my hand, it was September 11th, 2002. And I know, you know, my grandfather, my brother, they, you know, that's what I had, you know. And I knew that I was proud, but I didn't even have an idea of what I was about to get into. You know, because
you're a young man at that time.
Yeah.
How can you take that into scale?
Yeah. You know, and we all know how we were 25, 26, right? You're still full of, you think you're kicking in doors, whatever, man.
Going back to that day, September 10th,
Yeah.
or September 11th, when you raised your hand
Yeah.
to take that oath, to defend your country.
Mm-hmm.
What was your weight?
Oh, 178, 174. It fluctuated because I know I ate something bad.
You went
right
from
there.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Yep.
Okay.
Now that picture you're seeing on the right, that was from Sand Hill in Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning, Georgia. That's where infantry basic training is.
That's where you were at. Okay.
Yeah. And that's where I cut my teeth, and I learned. That's where I became an infantryman. Mm-hmm. And then from there, they sent me down the road to airborne school. And so when I finally, I got to go back to MEPS. Okay, we were talking about that. Finally, I'm at MEPS, and on September 11th, 2002, that morning is when you find out what your job's going to be. Okay. You take your test and everything the day or whatever before. They do everything, but that day of enlistment, you get to find, it's all the good stuff, man. You're going to find out your job, where you're going to be not stationed, but go to boot camp stuff, and when. Man, I was pretty serious when I told them I wanted combat arms. I wanted to go to war like anybody back then. I was filled with, like, you know, I wouldn't say hate, but vengeance.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Good way to put it.
Yep. And I got it. They gave me combat arms, made me a paratrooper, but they sent me to Alaska. You know, I was thinking, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a paratrooper. I honestly thought I was going to the 82nd Airborne, and Alaska was a blessing, man. It was a blessing to go up there, because it was the furthest place I could get away from. I could begin my mission, you know. I really didn't, like,
no distractions.
Right. No, nothing from around here or anything like that, or, you know, because like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of family. So I was a social guy and stuff. So it wasn't that hard to just go do this, you know. My girls, that was the hardest thing, because I got my job and I enlisted, but I knew I was going in September, but I didn't report until right after the new year, the following year, okay, in 2003.
During this time, had you put the? Were you still sailing with the captain?
Yeah.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit, but
A little bit.
just because I knew what I was about to get into.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing
Yeah.
at all. No, nothing. So here and there, but my
Not
way of
like
life.
it was.
No, I had to, but
Back when you were
I had to die
262
slow. That part of me had to die slowly.
Okay.
Realistically, like I couldn't have done it just cold.
Not
Like,
everybody can do it. Just
No.
cold turkeys.
right. But thankfully to this day, I'm over 7 years sober. 7 years sober.
Congratulations.
Working on that. Yeah, thank you. And that's a personal choice because believe me, and people that know me, they know I don't have any issues with it or anything. But for me, I do. It's just not good. But anyways, we go back, and so I get my job, and I didn't have to report to the military till January. So I did have those 3 months, and it was hard because my girls were young and they didn't really know it much, but I got the time to kind of, the guy that was with me on the day that 9/11 happened, he was the other technician. He's so close. I'm still close to him to this day. Him and I will always forever be meshed. I know you guys probably remember where you were at. You might remember who was with you.
Oh, I remember well.
And
I
that's
do too.
that's like that's kind of important. Like maybe take that time, that song. Like, where were you?
You want to know where I was?
Well, but the thing was who are you with, and maybe reach out to him.
I'm not ashamed to say
Yeah.
where I was on 9/11 at
903.
903. I was in prison
Yeah.
Well,
working with the
I know what you meant. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also was
Yeah.
in prison, but they called it middle school.
Okay. So,
All right, man.
Oh,
You were in middle school. Where'd you go to school?
Michigan Center.
Well, you're a center rat too.
Yep.
All right, me too.
Born and
man.
raised right on Flansburgh.
I'm surprised you ain't got a Mountain Dew bottle because that's like a trademark
I don't
with
like
us,
Mountain Dew.
Well, then you gotta.
a couple center rats.
I
All
hate it.
right.
Yeah, when he was telling the story, I'm like, this is very close to my story. I grew up with my grandmother in Michigan Center.
All right, right on.
One of our fans in the chat, his name is Roy Rat. He said he lived and worked at Fort Greely in Alaska from 2002 to 2008. So he wondered if you maybe crossed paths.
Maybe the only time I was at Fort Greely, I never drove in. I was dumped from the Air Force because every time we were out there, that's when I thought maybe I should have went to the Air Force. 'Cause here we're in this warm plane, and then you'd see that tailgate come down.
Yep.
And you're like, man, because you're just going to land like a popsicle stick and know that you're out there for 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And they're going to have you shave in the morning during this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. I had a friend of mine, his brother, my best friend from high school. He was Army paratrooper and was up in Alaska.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing you did. He's like, it was great because he was just away from everything. No distractions. It was just training.
It really was. And that was I got the chance when I first moved up there to see the beauty of Alaska, the like 18 to 20 hours of just beauty,
Right,
man.
yeah.
It was great.
And didn't have to take a dime out of your pocket.
Didn't have to.
Nice.
And as a young soldier, I look back at it and it was good because the other thing was you got more money when you were going up there. It was a hardship tour. And I didn't need it at the time because I was taking off to Afghanistan, but my girls did. So it sort of gave me like that peace of mind, like some of that money, like, okay, it's worth it there too. I didn't have to worry about that because I wasn't prepared for that either. Leaving my girls for not only boot camp, but, paratrooper school, airborne school, so, and then, I got up to Alaska, and this is great because so many good guys up there. And if there's any Geronimos listening, man, I love you guys because, oh man, we had good times. And that's where I learned to be, vigilant. I learned how to be an infantryman. And the thing about an infantryman with all these other jobs that are out there, in the military, they're great. But I was so proud because, you're a grunt, but you're with your brothers, man, and as far as a paratrooper, you've seen Band of Brothers. I was so proud of that. And that's what if I knew I was going in to the military like I did, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to jump out of planes. I wanted to do that. I wanted to do what my brother did. But I really didn't have an idea what my brother did because they're called the quiet professionals for a reason. Green Berets are just like your SEALs and everything. I mean, and there's some out there that talk about it, but it's not something I like to go to too much because,
Well, at this time, John, when you were in Alaska, did you know were you training for special forces or were you just going through basic? You had okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So I get up to Alaska and I'm up there before my wife and kids. So that was another stressor too. It was like, okay, I got to get all the household goods up here and everything, and there's a process for all that. So in the meantime, I'm going through all this training to go to Afghanistan. I know I'm leaving that summer. So I got up to Alaska.
So you knew you were going to be deployed to Afghanistan.
Yeah, that was the one thing when I was in the recruiting station. I was like, I don't want to go to a unit. Don't send me to like Korea. I don't want that. I want something in writing in a contract where I know that I'm going, because I knew this was my purpose and I knew that was going to happen. Like I wasn't going to settle. Any other thing I probably would have, but they weren't going to make me a mechanic and they were not going to make me, God bless them. And I don't mean anything by that. Mechanics that I deploy with them, awesome. Okay. Yeah. But for me, I didn't have that skill set. Okay. I knew what I wanted to do. And so when I got up to Alaska, we trained and then we were spun up to Afghanistan and we shipped out. So I got up there. I enlisted. I boot camp January. Fast forward, I got up there. I think it was July or August because I got up to my unit in Alaska alone, but they had been gone at Fort Knox for a month. So these guys were without tobacco, boo. They were not in the mood for a brand new 26-year-old cherry coming in, and that's what they
read and asking questions.
Yeah, and and that's what they referred to as a cherry, and that was the worst thing. I'm like, why? I had to ask, man, because these guys are like 18, 19, and I hear cherry amongst other things, man. I heard all sorts of stuff, but I'm like, what is a cherry, man? It took me forever. I'm like, oh my God, that's what I am. Is that you're a cherry until it gets popped? I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but anyway.
Well, okay.
That's your identification as an infantryman.
Yeah, no.
Brand new, So, which I took it with honor now that I look about it.
What pops the cherry then?
Going to war. And that's where we're going, man.
Going into
battle. The thing was with all these, or at least spending time, and if you weren't going, you were gonna do your time. Yeah. And there was a pecking order, and you were gonna follow it. It's called rank. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, I had to swallow a lot of humble pie. Being a father with 2 kids, and then here's a 20-year-old telling me, But the thing that changed, it didn't matter, is when we went out to the range or we were training those 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds. I had a
How old were you at this time?
I was 26.
You were 26,
26, okay. 27. Yeah, right. 27, I think. I was, because I turned 27 in August. But I had a younger team leader up there, Trucker Mike, and he was younger than me, but when it came to the range or anything like that, or when we were actually in Afghanistan, I looked at him at leadership, and he was way young. He was maybe 22, but 3 years when you're that makes a big difference. Remember when you're 20, back then, you throw in the military, it's a little different. But so we went to Afghanistan, and I was along the Pakistani border in Coast, or you call it Host. And that's where I cut my teeth in. I was there from 2003 to 2004. And that's where I learned I wanted to be a Green Beret, because being an infantryman, you're tasked out with different duties. Okay. A month long, you're going to go on a combat rotation, but another month you're going to do operational outpost security, which is not fun. You're just looking out for 12 hours out of a tower, probably similar to prisons and stuff like that, bring you coffee and stuff. Yeah. But when my platoon,
certainly not the same scenery though.
Not what I signed up for. I really envisioned when I was waking up all those mornings, as goofy as it sounds, clearing caves and like thinking, all right, we're going to get Osama and I'm going to be there. Really, that's, I was real naive back then, but I was motivated.
When I consider the military, when I right out of high school, that's what I would do. I'm like, I mean, I did well in school. I was a smart kid and stuff, but I was like, I don't want to push paper. I want to kick indoors and do something.
Yes.
If I'm going to commit to this, like I did not, I never signed it. It wasn't my calling. I never had that.
Yeah.
That feeling that you talk about, but I considered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Myself also.
Powerful.
Yeah.
It is. And so we got tasked out with being on guard duty, but I was upset. But they said we're going to this SF team house and we're pulling security for them. I'm like, well, this would be cool. I didn't know what that was going to entail.
SF as in
Special Forces. Yeah. It was a third group team right there, but they were away from us, like probably 12 or 15 kilometers from us, from our base camp. So I got to go with them. And since I was a machine gunner as a paratrooper, one of the things I got to do was be a door gunner in the turret for these guys when they went out on missions. Didn't do that much. I did all sorts of jobs over in Afghanistan. I was a rifleman, machine gunner, amongst other things. But for that month, we got to rotate out with them, and I got a taste of what these guys were doing and how they were doing it. I mean, we were basically going on a mission, but we were just sitting at the truck, like, here's the keys, watch my stuff while I go play. That. Yeah. And I'm like, that's what did it, because
that's when you learned what a Green Beret was.
Yeah.
It started making sense.
Yeah, and they're packing up their stuff 6 months later, and they're having cocktails on the beach where I'm there for a year. I was there. We got extended, and we never knew when we were coming home. I really didn't think I was gonna at one point. That first trip, it was like, man, they're just gonna keep me here, which I became pretty fluent in Pashto when I was there. Befriended several Afghanis that with technology, still message one of them. He's an interpreter, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But so I got a taste of it, and when we finally came back to Alaska, we got 30 days of leave, but I didn't plan on leaving Alaska.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have that kind of money it took me, look what I had to do to just get up here. And it was like,
and it would have been closer to go to Russia.
And at the,
a little land bridge.
Yeah. Right there.
Say hi to Sarah Palin. She's right there, right?
Yeah, she is.
Governor at the time, I'm sure.
Yeah. Still doing good things.
Yeah.
And so when we got back, we were having to turn everything in, and there was SF flyers around for the briefing, and everyone was on leave. Not everyone left, but they were still in Alaska, and they were just going to do stuff. But I just went to the briefing, and I don't even like this whole thing. I just did it. Like, I knew I was going to do it. And it was just like, go do it. So
going through the motions.
Yeah. And so that was interesting, because that was the first time I started getting questioned about my characters at youth. They did their homework.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, before accepting you into
going to selection. Yeah. You want to talk about that for a second? Selection?
Sure.
Yeah. That was a fun time too. This is a
teaching moment.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. So.
This has all got to do with that day. And by the time we close, I will wrap it up. I promise.
You're fine. Take your time.
But so I went to the briefing, and you find out it's 24 days. They give you 2 days to travel. So you're gone about a month from Alaska. Okay. Now, my unit didn't give me any time to train. They're not going to say, take this time off to go leave us to go do these crazy fun things, So that was a challenge. But, I got all my stuff together, did the PT test up in Alaska, and it was so cold, man. It's so cold. Like,
I can
you,
imagine.
yeah, you could when you spit, and this is no kidding. You could spit, you would hear it hit
Mhm.
the cement. You could hear just
Yeah.
not like
Instantly freeze.
yeah. But we took PT tests, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna send you to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and then from there you're gonna get on a bus for about an hour to this place called Camp McCall. And Camp McCall is important if you're a historian of the militaries, because that's where the glider was developed for World War II.
Oh, okay.
It was heavily secretive back then,
Oh, yeah.
amongst other things. And there's heavily secret things that go on right around there still to this day that I think is just fascinating.
Mhm.
Not only in the SF community, but just when I say the special forces community that I was in, as far as the Green Beret, but branching out in the entire special operations side, there's good people out there. So I went there, and that's about 24, 26 days or whatever. And you take everything you earned during the military off, like your rank, your name, everything. And you give this little piece of tape with a number on it. I was number 246 the first time. And I was 246 out of, I want to say, like 372. And I think they selected like 103 of us. But it was a challenge because that whole time you don't know anything. They're not telling you, like,
Yeah.
you didn't pass that event.
You're literally just a number.
You're a number. And every morning you'd have a formation before you did everything. You'd have to pack all your stuff, get it out of the bunk, and they call numbers, and that's when you knew you're doing your walk of shame, or not necessarily walk of shame, but game over.
Going back to wherever you were before.
Yeah, and then you know, it's just, you don't want to go back and
Yeah,
say,
now you got to face your friends.
coulda, shoulda, woulda, because
Yeah.
I heard a lot of that.
I'm sure.
You know.
Well, so 200 of them didn't make it.
Yeah.
By the end of it.
Yeah.
So
And the fascinating thing about that is the weed out process, just from the selection, like just to apply. You know, you got to pass your security clearance. You got to have a GT score of 110, and there's all these things, and probably even more now. But yeah, so, and that was just to get selected to go to a 2-year school, approximately 2 years. I was there about 2 years, because you're not going through all your phases initially, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, out of that 2 years is foreign languages, 6 months. So for me, it was 6 months of Arabic.
I didn't know that there was a foreign language requirement for that. And I mean, it's good. I mean, obviously, that's good to know. I mean, if you're being
For Green Berets?
yeah,
Absolutely.
if you're being placed in somewhere, you should probably know the language.
And that's what separates the difference. And I can sit here, we could sit here all day, and there are many different special operation warriors out there. You got your SEALs, your Rangers, your Green Berets, amongst other things, and other branches. But for us, our bread and butter is the foreign language, because we take that with us. You know, we're not always where there's an interpreter.
Yeah, that can mean life or death.
Absolutely. And if you want to talk about getting things done, start speaking their native tongue.
I imagine.
You know, and building that rapport. And that's what drew me into that whole community, was building the rapport, and, you know, and it didn't matter the color of the skin or anything. You were united. And it was that way in Afghanistan. It was that way in Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon.
Did your commander or whomever lead you to those that you were to communicate with, or were you just out?
No. So when I went through the Q course, I guess I should explain. I did my language, and then they told me I was going to be a special forces weapons sergeant. Okay. So you've got your weapons sergeants, your medics, your commo guys, and you got your engineers, which that's what my brother was. He was an engineer, and also he was scuba qualified. Like, his career just didn't stop, man. Like
Yeah.
what he did, not only like through high school, I admired, but once he became a Green Beret, he was still knocking it out, man. You know, he went to dive school. And that is the hardest thing, in my opinion, in the special forces community, as far as any type of school. For me, it was. I didn't go to the dive school. I did the pre-scuba, and that was hard enough, you know. And then shortly later, I went back to Afghanistan on a trip. But anyways, going back, I became a weapons sergeant. And so I did 6 months of training foreign and domestic weapons, heavy gunnery, from mortars to, calling in fire. They train you to do all that. So you got to learn how to do that also, to an extent, in their language, running range and things like that, So it was a lot of training with that, 6 months of that. And so you're doing your language, you're doing your weapons, your job. You come, and then they're going to teach you all these small unit tactics. So everything I learned as an infantryman was getting wiped out the door, and I was learning a new way of life. So I went to Fort Bragg for the Q course and graduated. My brother was at my graduation, and that's awesome. It really was, man. Because at the time, again, he went from being like this scuba guy, and really got things done. And then he decided he was going to be a warrant officer as a Green Beret. So he kept advancing, and I was like, man. So he was there at the same time that I got to graduate. So it was cool. And so I ended up in the same group as my brother. So that's why I want to stress all this, because it's a small community, and that tragic day 24 years ago, that really changed things for me, to an extent that it really showed me our nation's character, how united we were, really. But it also planted a seed that I'm still learning from, and it's still blessing me with, an extent that, I'm here to talk with you guys about this stuff.
We appreciate it.
So I graduated, and I ended up at the same group as my brother, and
when you say group, give us a number.
I'm sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Fifth group, 5th Special Forces Group out of Fort Campbell. You got first group, third group, fifth. You've got several.
Okay, so
groups.
in a group, how many?
Well, it just depends. On a
All
team, you got 10 to 12 on a good day.
But was he on your team?
No, he was in my battalion, in my company.
Okay.
So I had probably about 70 guys, 70 or 75 guys, I think, man.
Okay.
We're in and out so much, you don't even see the guys on your floor much, because once you're on your team, to 10 to 12, you're not like training with these other guys, man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about that whole community, like, that I learned was, like, my brother was a dive guy. And then his buddy was on a Halo team, because you've got all these different teams up there that have different means of infiltration.
Now, what's a Halo?
Halo, jumping out of an airplane without a static line, high altitude, low opening. Yeah. I didn't. No.
Saying Halo.
No, not the video game.
Well, but I'm just saying. Yeah, if I were to, be in that situation, I would like to have a halo over my head.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And I was on a mobility team, which is more direct action, and we did a lot of close quarter battle, and we were specializing in that. So I learned a lot about fast roping and hitting the objective fast and efficiently. And X fell in the same way, and it was a blessing to be at 5th Group, because I was there at Fort Campbell, but it was Clarksville, Tennessee, really.
So give us a timeline here, John. You were at Fort Campbell.
I was in the military about 3 years, because they want you.
So we're talking about 2004, then maybe 2000.
Yeah, 5.
And at that time, and I can't at this time recollect. I probably could have done some homework on it. But where were we as in the United States military? What was at that point happening in Afghanistan?
2005 was the, if I remember correctly, about when Bush was standing on the ship with the mission accomplished sign behind him, and they shifted gears to Iraq, I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
I mean, if I'm not
That's when
mistaken,
we shifted gears to Iraq, or it was Iraq to Afghanistan?
no, we were in Afghanistan first, weren't we?
Yeah, we were in Afghanistan. And
Well, I'm
actually-
talking about the first. Well, George H. Bush, of course.
Oh, yeah.
W's father
yeah,
when we
yeah,
invaded
2005.
Iraq.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm talking
So,
about
okay.
2005. It would be W.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to fifth group late 2005, early 2006, I want to say. So I was in the military a little over 3 years because you cannot go to selection if you are not a corporal or above, or you have 2 years in the service. I didn't have 2 years in the service at the time that I went to selection, but I earned my corporal. I was on what they call the fast track. Like, I kept getting promoted basically because I was just showing up in the right time, right uniform, and losing all that weight. I became an avid runner, which I still am to this day. So yeah, I just ran.
Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at 2005. You're still at Fort Bragg, or were you
I
at-
showed up to fifth group then. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And that's when I was assigned to my team, and we shipped out. The thing about that was,
This was your first deployment then to Afghanistan?
no, my
No,
first deployment was with
prior.
the first of the 501st.
Was-
That's right.
Was
Yep.
prior, yeah.
Yeah, and believe me, I'd love, we could do another show on all the tours and everything, but really, that first one was when I learned what my brother, he was really doing and what I really wanted to do,
Yeah.
and I stress that because, man, it one is kind of like hindsight. We all know, like, you look back at things like, man, but yeah, I look back at it, and we had a lot of rough times between each other, but I look back at it too, is like, he was the compass that I had, and him and my grandfather, that they really helped instill these traits that I'm grateful for.
Mhm.
And it really has made it a mission of mine to not only share that story about 9/11, but also, I had the opportunity yesterday. I don't want to get too much off track, but I had the opportunity yesterday to speak to school here, to some junior students
Mhm.
about September 11th, and none of these kids, of course, were born. And I stressed that, this probably most likely had a direct effect from their mother or father or grandmother or whatnot, that whoever was raising them, So there's a little bit of a ripple effect there, as everybody in our nation. But I told them, and I stressed it, and I'll share it, is, the two most important days of my life, the day I was born and the day I realized my purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that purpose, had I not gone through a lot of that garbage that I did as a young kid, and I could have folded, I could have just said, you know what, stand on the street and watch these patriotic people enlist and go do this. But I didn't have that in me when I was 16 or 18. It took something so horrific to our nation that is very intimate to me, and it has been, that's really, I stress that with those kids. I showed them a video I did 5 years ago. I ran up on the state capitol with my flag that I retired. I just came back from Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and I did a 9.11 mile run. I think I sent you that video.
Yeah. And that was in Shanksville, or no?
No, that was in Lansing.
In
And
Lansing, yep.
yeah, and it was a fundraiser that I did through Mission 22, which is a great program for veterans that are out there, and we can talk about that at some point. But I ran up on those steps because I wanted those lawmakers to understand that this was something that we needed to keep in our schools. It's not okay because we get uncomfortable about it that we don't talk about it. That's not teaching our kids. And
It's something to never forget.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm grateful. You know, tomorrow I'm going to go out to another school, you know, and share, you know, first thing in the morning. And that is the whole point of going to these schools. I don't I don't like, you know, it's not easy to talk about a lot of that stuff that has built me to what
Mhm.
has brought me here today. But that's not fair to the next generation.
Yeah. But while you're speaking to the students,
Mm-hmm.
you may be speaking to a student or more than one that possibly is going through what you went through in your youth.
That's the whole
You
point.
don't know that. Yeah.
That's the whole point. Because I
Right.
didn't, you know, you don't have that. Here's a little story about my youth that I won't forget, and this instilled me, and it will today. You guys know Montel Williams?
Yeah.
Okay, I was with Bethany Christian Services in a group home in Grand Rapids, and I was at a predominantly black school, and I tell you, it was the greatest years of my life. It's not a school; it was the biggest school in Grand Rapids. I was part of the City League. Way bigger than Jackson High, you know, and coming from Michigan Center. Yeah.
It's
But
it's a culture
yeah,
shock.
but
Sure.
luckily my buddies in the group home, they kind of, you know, pushed me along. And again, I share that because that structure that I had in a very, very awful time is the structure I fit in with in the military.
Mhm.
And I didn't know it at the time, like, oh, that's where I need to be, but that's where my niche was. And yeah, it's crazy, man.
It shapes you.
It shapes you, and
Yeah.
that's the whole point is to going into the schools is, you know, okay, there's a history lesson to be learned here also, but we're also there to teach too. And I want to teach to never forget, but I also want to teach too, is that, you know, their purpose may not come until they're 25, but maybe learning about this day and that yearly reminder, they may think about this guy that they never seen with tattoos and rambling on about this day 24 years ago. You know, I didn't know any of those people.
Mhm.
I know enough now because my wife and I, she accompanied me. We got this flag
Yeah.
at ground zero.
The flag behind us.
Yes. Yeah.
Explain the flag, Jen.
That flag goes with me everywhere. I got this at the World Trade Center, ground zero, the museum, and every school that I go to. Here, I'm doing the 9/11 run up in Holt tomorrow night, and I'm going to run with my body armor, and that flag's going to be in my arm.
And it's folded as an American flag.
Absolutely. The only difference with this
How
one
many
for me, my
folds
decision.
I can't remember how many folds there are, but with a flag that you would see at a gravesite for a veteran,
Yep.
A veteran who's passed and so forth. I have one. I have my father's at home
Yeah.
from World War II.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, John brought this in. Then he explained to me, and if you look at all the names, it's called the Flag of Honor
Yeah.
Memorial Edition, and explained the rest of this, John.
Yes, this is every civilian that died that morning, whether in the buildings or responding. And that's the thing that we need to remember also is, man, the first responders in this community also,
Oh, absolutely.
like how we just really take them for granted, or it's easy to point the finger, but then when you need them,
When it hits the fan,
where's JPD and where are they at? You know?
When
The
it hits
people
the
that
fan.
run towards the danger while we're running away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, we talked about that on my show actually a couple days ago with Roy Rat, who's in the chat. There's some people who run towards it, some people that run away from it, and it's real easy to forget about those people running at it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
You know, and I'm grateful for all of them, man.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, it's a commitment to do that, but to wake up every morning and, you know, to stay in shape and to be motivated enough knowing that, like, you know, that's the thing. The first responders, everybody, to include the 2,977 that are on this flag, they woke up today as a normal day, man.
Oh, yeah.
You hear about the stories and they just go on. And I learn every year, this time of year, more and more. I've been to Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and I've been here. I have not been to the Pentagon, and reason being is I want to go to Arlington at the same time, and I just need, for both, because when I went here to the ground zero, I didn't want to do anything the rest of the day. Like in New York City, it was just, I never been there, never wanted to go there.
Right.
But this here and that same calling to go there and to share with these students and these youth around here is the same mission that I'm going to keep pushing forward and amongst other things.
And like Kevin said, some ran at it, some ran away from it.
Yeah.
You ran at it 1 year,
Yeah.
2002,
Yeah.
9/11.
Mhm.
You ran at it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you ran at it, on 2001 9/11, but there's a process.
Well,
so,
it
I
was,
mean,
it was after,
he
just
indirect-
after
he-
9/11.
He was the one that indirectly ran directly at it,
Right.
Yeah.
But you indirectly,
which is very admirable.
between 2001, 2002, ran at it. And after 2002, after you took that oath.
Yeah, and like you had said earlier, there may be some youth out there that might need to hear this or it's similar, and that's the whole purpose. Is I just turned 50. These young kids are, if we sit here and think that this is never going to happen again, we're mistaken. And this is the next generation,
Mhm.
and it's time to share it, as my Vietnam brothers still do.
Oh yeah.
And it's important not to forget that, not to forget this, and not to forget, how this all ended in Afghanistan too, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, and that could be another time, because we want to focus on this, but
Mhm.
really, I'm really looking forward to, speaking tomorrow and
Sure.
continuing to reaching out to these kids, and still in the process of, this doesn't stop for me. I'm working on my own nonprofit to push forward to help these kids that I grew up as, because, I don't have the story. Oh, I was in foster care and group home and I grew up to be this millionaire, this whatever. No, man, but to me, my own personal experience, this is much richer than that,
Hell yeah.
because, I had met, man, so many talented people that are country musicians now, that gave up professional football to go in. Like, I was nothing, man. Not to give up what they, so there's so many stories out there. But
Sure.
the point is when you don't think you have a story, like for me, it's important to pass this down to that next generation.
That's
Right.
right.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, because you brought the Vietnam thing, and that's really a big point, because a lot of kids, like you said, weren't even born in 2001.
No.
And so they read about it in history books. They didn't live it. They didn't feel
Yeah.
it. It's the same as like my generation specifically, that we hear about the Vietnam. We hear the old timers talk about it, and we're like, okay, we may be passionate about it, but it's not the same as living through it.
Yeah.
And so they need to hear it from somebody still alive. That's amazing thing to have. And as opposed to just reading about it in your history book and taking a test and forgetting about what happened, because to them, they were either babies or weren't born.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy to think about.
Right. No,
I remember it like yesterday, but I
Mhm.
mean, they're like, okay, well, I was born in 2003 or
Yeah.
2006, or it's crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is. And, whether we know it or not, especially our generations, we're tied. This is something that we're tied to, as like Pearl Harbor, that
Mhm.
generation, so it's important that, we learn and we share and we just,
And never forget.
yeah, never forget.
All right.
My grandmother, probably similar age to would be your grandmother. My grandmother's 92, by the way. And she talked about the same feeling on when Pearl Harbor happened as when 9/11 happened. It was just a gut punch.
Yeah.
So,
And you know,
Yeah.
the memorial honors every one of the individuals. You go in a room, there's a picture, they say their name. You don't speak when you're in the room. You don't take your phone in the room, or you don't take it out.
out of respect.
Out of respect, but it's the most, it just,
Solemn. It's a solemn place.
yeah. I'm not, yeah. And you know, go. That's all I can say is you just got to experience it. And it could be different for everyone.
All right, John. Well, not only do Kevin and I appreciate
More than you know.
you
Yeah.
and your service,
Yes.
and of course your story,
Your sacrifice, your commitment.
our viewers also, I
Oh, yeah.
know, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of
Appreciate it.
a lot of movement in the chat today, and
Mhm.
you know, all outpouring appreciation. Now, so you said you're speaking at schools,
Yeah.
but you said before the show you had mentioned that you're having not a hard time, but you know, lining it up and getting a hold of the schools. Is there a place where if someone's listening that knows an administrator or is administrator of a school can reach out to you and maybe have you in?
Well, you know, right now, they can reach out through my email really for right now, because this is still getting going. You know,
Yeah, right.
Shannon,
Give that out.
yeah,
Give
Shannon,
whatever information
Yeah.
you can.
Shannon John 128 at Gmail.
All right, I'll put that in the chat, and I'll put it in the comment or the description of the show as well.
Yeah,
It's Shannon J.
Shannon John
John.
JOHN. Yep,
Okay.
128 at Gmail. I'm on the Book of Faces, or Facebook as they still call it. I think that's a fading thing, but our generation's still on there, you know, checking it out.
Book of Faces.
I call it the Book of Faces, like, you know, kind of, you know, like, here it is, like, who's this person asking for a friend request? All you see is a face. You know?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I never knew I had so many friends.
Yeah,
And then
Yeah, I don't have that.
then all of a
I have more
sudden
friends on there than I do in real life.
And then
that's
all
for
of a
sure.
sudden, I don't have them as a friend. I
Yeah.
don't know what happened to our friendship, but they're gone.
cut ties, man. Yeah.
Cut ties. All right.
Mhm.
All right, John.
Yeah.
My good man again.
All right. Yeah,
Yes,
this is fun. I
certainly.
appreciate it.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it was, again, a distinct honor and absolute pleasure
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
to listen,
you.
to listen to what you had to say, your story.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's hard to talk about.
It is.
Especially your youth and everything leading up to that day you enlisted.
Yeah.
And
You know?
but wow. Yeah.
And you know, I got a deeper sense of appreciation of my youth when, you know, one more thing, like, you know, it was extremely hard. Like, this has not stopped. I went back to Michigan State in my 40s during COVID. Okay.
Ooh.
When I lived up in Lansing. When I was set and serious, like, I was going to do this, man.
Yeah.
And I was living up in Lansing, and I enrolled and went for criminal justice and child and youth services, knocked that out. And what a crazy time, man.
Yeah.
You know, to do it during COVID, but also the same sense when I was in boot camp with these kids. Here I'm in with a mask and real young kids, like, in school, like, man, you know,
Fresh 18-year-olds.
yeah. So, you know, to become a Sparty in my 40s was a heck of a ride too. So, and it's been that, you know.
Well, it was all going good until you had to say that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know. What's up with
Oh,
that?
Heck no. We love our
Yeah.
Spartans. We love
right.
our Spartans.
I'm a Spartan fan as well.
You're a good
No,
man.
Okay.
It kind of fits hand in hand with the green beret and the green,
Sure.
and the red cedar.
Spartans were, you know,
And the Spartans.
superior warriors. and-
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I don't know what the Wolverines did.
I-
A Wolverine, but anyways, yeah.
When extinct.
What extinct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. So thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, John, for coming on. I think that was. I love to hear the story. I love to hear those stories, and either on this show or another show, we would love to have you on again. Like I said, I do 3 shows. I do another political show right here in this studio. Oh,
Yeah.
$2 donation from Roy Rat. He said, "Take the Spartan pledge with me. I will not take my own life, by my own hand until I talk to my battle buddy first. My mission is to find a mission and to help my warfighter family.
Oh, that's awesome.
Roy Rat's he's one of my moderators for all my shows, and he's a good guy. He's a great guy. So,
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Roy.
and
Roy.
our first donation on the show. So
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've had this show going now for 8-9 episodes. and
I think we're on episode 8.
All right.
I got to check that bank account, but I don't think there's anything in it yet.
There you
for
guys
donations.
go. Go down. Go down to
But I
go down to Jackson's famous Irish pub down
Irish
here.
pub, yes.
You may
yeah.
know the owner.
Yes, just a
Best
little
burger
bit.
in town.
Yeah,
I
the
mean-
Shamrock Bar.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, been there since 1948.
And that's something funny that you and I got in common is Rick and John. That's my brother Rick and John. And
I was going to
Rick
say
and
that
John,
earlier
Rick
when
and
you
John.
said that your brother Rick, and I'm like, wait, is it you, John?
Yep.
Rick?
Yeah. Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, I'd like to meet your brother Rick someday.
yeah.
That would also.
He
be
don't come up
very-
here a whole lot,
Yeah.
but you know, he's living a good life in North
Sure
Carolina.
he is.
He's got a great wife down there, and his kids are growing up, so
Yeah.
he's enjoying it.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for everybody for watching. Thanks for coming on with us, John, and thank you, John.
Thank you, Kevin. Again, great job.
Yeah, I think it was a great show, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. I think we'll talk about
Yes,
that
sir.
after the show.
Yeah.
So, anything else you guys would like to add?
No, just again, thank you, John, for your service
Yeah,
to our country.
Yeah. And you know, if
To-
you're not
to-
doing anything around 9 a.m. tomorrow,
You know, I
take a moment and just remember tomorrow.
Yes.
I'll be live. I do a show at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So I'll be live on the air. So I'm sure there'll be a moment
Yeah.
that will.
And
Yeah.
always remember, if it weren't for John and our military, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
No.
We wouldn't have those freedoms or those liberties that we just take for granted.
Yeah.
And myself, especially because I didn't serve. I didn't serve in the military. And so, yeah, I just most of the time take them for granted, except for when I give my thoughts to
Yeah.
our military.
When you step back,
you're
and
still
take it all in.
You're
yeah.
serving in a sense, so you really care about this city and county, and
Oh, yeah.
you have for a real long time.
One
And
of the
that's
most
one thing I
passionate
admire
people.
about you. And when we were going to do this, I knew how you feel about this, so I knew this just made sense, you know. So
Thanks,
I
John.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We'll see everybody in a couple weeks.
Sounds good. Everybody have a great
All
day,
right.
and we'll see you next time.
All right.
You've been listening to a Grandma's Boy Media Production.
Talking all things Jackson, bringing you the news that you need to know. The Heads on Jackson podcast, and we're coming at you live in your city. Jackson, this is your time. Get your news from your neighbor, the people who care, unbiased and uncensored with pride. Broadcasting to you live on the air. Trusted source to tell you what's happening from the city to the county line. All the news that matters. Make your own opinion about the news that affect your life. It's Home Jackson Podcast.